Salofalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up.
Thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped.
Tensions are rising in Los Angeles. Also,
our people want independence, and there's nothing else. People died for independence.
Bougainville talks are underway, and will Pacific families benefit from the new visa? It's a showdown that political analysts say that the White House has been waiting for. In its fourth night, violent scenes erupted in downtown Los Angeles as protesters clashed with law enforcement, including National Guard troops, in defiance of President Trump's crackdown on immigrants. Tensions are high as police are firing rubber bullets and tear gas, with an Australian reporter caught in the crossfire.
You just shut the fuck up! You okay?
I'm good. Are you okay?
Meanwhile, Mr. Trump is praising his administration's response to the protests.
Some of the things you're reading about in Los Angeles, thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped, and a lot of problems they were having out there.
The US military has confirmed it will send 700 Marines to LA to help protect federal personnel and property. I caught up with Pasifika and New Zealand journalist Alicia Foon, who is in Los Angeles, and began by asking her if she was safe.
I am safe. Thank you for asking.
So, as I understand, it's day 4 of the protests in LA. What's the mood like at the moment, and how many people would you say are turning up?
There are hundreds of thousands of people that are turning up to downtown Los Angeles. And just to paint a picture, essentially within downtown, it's an area that a lot of people try to avoid because it can draw in, particular crowds. And so usually the majority of Angelenos stay away from downtown, but there's essentially 2 to 3 blocks that have been completely cordoned off by police. And that is where the protests have been happening around City Hall, by the Federal Building. They have all been guarded completely by the National Guard. Today I was out there and I saw hundreds of police in force with with their armor on, ready to kind of fight back with force if needed. And that's exactly what we've been seeing, and it's exactly what's happening. I guess a lot of people that arrived at these protests 4 days ago, they were there to protest peacefully. You had people with signs and flags. The majority of people are not looking for violence whatsoever. However, yesterday things really did take a turn for the worse from about 4:30 onwards, and I was there just opposite the LA Town Hall building, or City Hall building rather, and that's when we had a number of National Guard and police that were firing. And one of my friends got caught in the fire, the crossfire, and her wrist was injured. It was quite a shock as well, because we weren't expecting to experience any of that, because we were probably 2 to 3 blocks down. And so seeing the way that police and the National Guard have been aggressively kind of fighting back or even provoking protesters has been quite unsettling. But it's important to say that there have also been a number of protesters that have got hammers, and they've tried to break the concrete, and they've been throwing lime scooters and concrete at police cars that were stationary on one of the main highways here in Los Angeles. So there's been a lot of back and forth, but just to be clear, the majority of protesters are actually being peaceful. So there's protests happening right now in downtown LA and also Santa Ana as well. But yeah, it doesn't seem like this is slowing down anytime soon.
I'm going to get back to you on the National Guard, but just for context, what actually led to these protests? I understand that this has been boiling for quite some time.
Yeah, so the main reason that we are seeing Los Angeles kind of stand up to Washington is because Donald Trump, he basically said that no one is safe in Los Angeles, no undocumented immigrant, and a lot of Latinos here are very fearful. We're starting to see a number of ICE individuals that have been told to come from Washington to aggressively take individuals by force. And some of these individuals are on Washington's list for a number of criminal activities. But the way that it's been described is that everyone that is being sought after by ICE are criminals, they're aliens. So there's been a real dehumanizing of the language, which is really important to say. But what we're seeing at the moment is Los Angeles kind of fighting back to say, you're not welcome here. Los Angeles and the state of Los Angeles, the mayor and the governor, have actually been very strongly against Washington's moves, whereas Trump said, we're sending the National Guard, and that hasn't been done in a very, very long time. It wasn't even done for January 6th when we saw the Capitol building raided by hundreds of Republicans. But essentially, Los Angeles is standing up because they don't want to see their communities and families ripped apart and children plucked from classrooms. There's a lot of fear and intimidation, and some of it is an echo chamber, but a lot of it is a resistance to fight back, to say you're not welcome here, follow the law, follow the rules. But what we've seen is President Trump kind of overrule a decision by the governor, and that is what is playing out. This kind of force of power, I guess, from Washington to basically say no one is safe in what is a majority Mexican Latino kind of community in Los Angeles. So there are a lot of hubs around and a lot of people that are fearful, and are kind of carrying around their documents and passports. And we've seen a number of these incidents happen.
Obviously, we've seen a lot of Latino people come forward, but LA is also home to a significant number of Pasifika people. Well, have you spoken to any of them? What do they make of what's happening on the ground?
I haven't had a chance to speak to our Pasifika family in Los Angeles, but I know there's a really tight crew. And from what I have seen so far on social media is that there's a real camaraderie. And that there's a grieving, I guess, that's happening online from what I've seen from a lot of people, because in a way, Mexico and Los Angeles were so tightly linked because of the border. So historically, this land was once Mexico. And so what I have kind of seen from, some of the Pacific groups, conversations, a lot of young people that feel like they want to take on activism, they see this fight as their fight as well, around sovereignty, around land, around the importance of being educated around history and knowing that it's not black and white. There's a lot of grey. There's a lot of hurt, I think. And so at a time like this, I think every community is feeling it, every neighborhood is feeling it. Even some of the most popular, expensive neighborhoods like Santa Monica, we're seeing ICE vehicles show up outside of schools. And nothing has happened yet, but the governor has said it's, a tactic that he believes is around fear and intimidation. And tomorrow is the last day of school as well. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what kind of, I guess, conversations teachers are having with their students, with people. And I'm sure that many Pasifika in Los Angeles will be feeling almost like the secondhand emotions of what's going on, considering there are parallels within what we're seeing here today and what happened historically in New Zealand as well.
What about those that are in support of Trump? What are they saying?
There is a lot of loud support for Trump, and for many Latinas as well, they did vote for Trump to be president. And so there is a group of people that we're seeing that are saying, well, you voted for this. And for many Republicans, they're believing that the majority of people that are being taken from the streets, from the fashion district, from their workplaces, from schools, have some kind of criminal record. They're being seen as essentially illegal immigrants. They shouldn't be here. There's not a lot of sympathy or understanding, but they are very much for what is going on, because they want to see this country safer, to see their communities less populated. There's a lot of rhetoric going around, but they're very much against the violence that's been happening. I know that there's been a lot of commentary about the protests being a lot more violent than what's being reported. But overall, there seems to be a lot of support for whatever Trump is saying, whether it's through social media or through the media as well. People are in support of what's going on.
Yeah. Hey, and what else can you tell us about the response from President Trump, particularly the National Guards and the Marines? You mentioned that the National Guards haven't been activated since like 60 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, so in 1962, it was the last time that we saw protests on this scale. But we saw the National Guard deployed there, and people were outraged. There are documentaries about it, and perhaps you could share more with your listeners as well. But without going too much into the history, what is really, I guess, divisive right now is the decision to bring the National Guard into Los Angeles, in a city that is very democratic, is very liberal. There are still pockets within Los Angeles where we see a lot of support for Trump, and they are Republican. But I think to see a level of force and the number of individuals that are showing up to these protests they don't quite outnumber the protesters, but it very much, like, you do see a force of black and green, and that's hard to. It's a really hard image to get out of your head for people that are there to, essentially stand up for their communities and families.
Leaders from Papua New Guinea and Bougainville are currently in talks about the region's independence at Burnham Military Camp just outside Christchurch. Bougainville, home to an estimated 300,000 people, is an autonomous region of Papua New Guinea. Its path to independence remains a major political and social issue. In 2019, 98% of Bougainvilleans voted for independence in a referendum. Timothy Masil holds one of 4 Bougainville electorate seats in the National Parliament of PNG. The South Bougainville MP has been at Burnham for the talks, alongside leaders like Prime Minister James Marape and Ishmael Toroama, the presidents of the Autonomous Bougainville Government, or ABG. Former New Zealand Governor-General Sir Jerry Mataparai is also present as the long-serving moderator between parties. Te Wila Fuatai caught up with Mr. Masil about the ongoing talks. She started by asking him what independence for Bougainville and its people looked like.
For us in Bougainville, we want to stand alone. We are not saying that we are moving out from Papua New Guinea. We want to be let alone so that we can have our own government. Our people can have their own country. Our people can have their own system of government in Bougainville. And that's what it means to us, to be independent and to control our own environment, to control our own resources, to control our own the seas and the minings and the forest and the air and everything, because Bougainville is so rich in natural resources, and it's not only for that, but also that we lost over 20,000 lives in Bougainville during the crisis. And we are saying that our people's blood did not spill for nothing. I mean, these are only the 20,000 is the number of people who died. But there's a number of hundreds and number of people who were wounded, both from the BRA and of course from the resistance. But they are all Bougainvilleans. So the resistance forces and the BRA came together, and now we are united. And we are calling for independence.
BRA would be the Bougainville
Revolutionary Army, yes.
BRA.
And the resistance were the pro-government side. They were, helping the government to take over Bougainville because they wanted, better services to come into Bougainville. I think the 10 years was too much.
You're from Bougainville yourself. Was it difficult to know that you had to go in and be part of the government of PNG?
The thing that actually drove me to take the challenge was that since our people in Bougainville came together, we needed people who could take that challenge to go forward. And I thought that I could provide that leadership. There was a lot of things that the National Parliament would be involved in. And one of them is to bring the results of the referendum into the National Parliament to be decided or to be approved. And so that is the part that we have not gotten into yet. We are talking about that. We have been talking about that for the last several months, few years now, as to how we should bring that results into the National Parliament.
At that high level, at that political decision-making level, what are the barriers to actually making sure the referendum results and what people in Bougainville are calling for to actually get in there?
One of the main barriers is that we have elections every 5 years. And when you have elections every 5 years, new members of parliament are voted in. And some of these members, they don't even have a clue on what happened on Bougainville. One of our tasks is to make sure these people understand Bougainville, because it's the parliament that is going to make the decision. It's not the Prime Minister, it's not me, it is the people in Parliament, the members of Parliament. That has been part of our missions, I guess, to educate other Papua New Guinean members of Parliament.
You mentioned there the amount of natural resources in Bougainville. How significant is that, one, in Bougainville being able to be independent, but also Papua New Guinea wanting to stop independence?
I don't think that's the reason. I think Papua New Guinea is worried about the unity of a country. And I also, it's something that, we all don't want to see it happen, but eventually it must happen because that's the way things happen. Bougainville will not step down from talking about independence from Papua New Guinea. And Papua New Guinea will continue to talk about keeping the sovereignty of the nation together.
You've been down there, obviously. You've been in Christchurch.
Yes,
so tell me a bit about what happened and how it went.
I think discussions were around the issue of bringing the referendum results into Parliament.
Is that something that you support?
I don't support that. I believe that no timeline should be put. The issue of Bougainville is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, and we can keep on talking until we reach something that is workable for both sides. You're talking about letting a part of your country go. It's not that easy. And I say this because we are preempting, we are rushing, and we are pushing too much into this. I think it should wait. The ABG government is putting that date because of the WABEG meeting, in which it was decided that no later than 30 years the independence should come to Bougainville. And so it was decided that no later than 2027 and not before 2025.
The New Zealand government recently announced a new Parent Boost visa, which they say will bring families together. From September, parents will be able to access a multi-entry 5-year visa, provided they meet specific requirements. Applicants will also be able to renew it once, meaning the maximum length of a visit can be up to 10 years. Immigration Minister Erica Stanford said the visa strikes a balance. I caught up with Green Party MP Te Anautu Yono and began by asking for his reaction to the visa.
When I heard about Ted about this announcement, I knew they weren't thinking about our people. They weren't thinking about Pasifika communities. The $250,000 to be able to access this, so they weren't thinking about Pasifika. I think what we really need here is to have pathways residency for our people, acknowledging the connections between Aotearoa and the Pacific, and the fact that our people have deep roots in our communities here in New Zealand. So yeah, I think they've missed the boat on this one.
How exactly is this visa shining out Pacific communities?
It's the amount of money that you need to actually be able to qualify. So my reading of it is you need $250,000 to actually qualify to qualify to be able to access this visa. I don't know that many Pacific Island families with $250,000. Yeah, they have. I don't think we're a front of mind for them in terms of this announcement.
Some critics have said that this visa favours wealthier migrant families who can meet the financial requirements. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. It is all about supporting rich migrants, as opposed to what I think they should be doing is focusing on people that have deep connections within Aotearoa, people that have long-established connections within Aotearoa, and also it's important for us to remember the relationships that we have between Aotearoa and the Pacific, and the importance of those relationships. And so for the Greens, we've for a long time pushed for visa waiver access into Aotearoa. We think that will solve a whole lot of issues, but also having pathways for residency for our family, acknowledging that it shouldn't just be about rich people, it should be about our people with those community connections.
Yeah, just with that visa waiver access, where are we at with the petition that had been released a few months back?
There's a couple of issues, because we put the petition out, and then they had the announcement where they're going to make changes with the extending it to 24 months for that multi-visa access, but then also they hitched the wagon to the Australian system, so that if you did qualify for a number of different visas, then you would get visa waiver access into New Zealand for the 3 months. The problem with that is that it assumes that people have connections both in Australia and in New Zealand, and for example, people just want to come to New Zealand.
Yeah,
people want to just come just to New Zealand, and that creates issues. It would be far simpler, I think, for us to have visa waiver access into Aotearoa New Zealand. What
would you change about the policy if you could?
Well, the financial obligation is, I think, really about focusing on the economic opportunities that rich migrants have. Well, it's going to be more than that. I think you've got to think about the importance of the relationships between Aotearoa and the Pacific. But those relationships are incredibly important, because that determines the standing of Aotearoa and New Zealand on the international stage. So my reading of it, they didn't factor that in, and that's disappointing.
Do you believe the policy has gone far enough, or is it just a political compromise?
This policy hasn't gone far enough. We've got to understand that our people want to be able to come to New Zealand. They want to be able to make those connections. We've got families here as well. It shouldn't be just for the wealthy.
So we've got elections next year. What are the Green Party's key immigration priorities?
Well, then we would support resetting immigration settings, and we have pushed for a long time for visa waiver access for Pacific countries. So that's still there for us as well. But there is still work to do, and I know that our immigration spokesperson, Ricardo Mendes-March, is doing a lot of work.
What are you hearing from Pacific and other ethnic communities who've been waiting years for parent reunification? What are they telling you?
I think the ones that can't afford it continue to be really worried about what's happening, and their ability or lack of ability to be able to access immigration settings that recognise the cultural relationships and the importance of those relationships across the Pacific. But I think there will be disappointment.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.